Yeah, I have something to say about drama. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the way I understand it, drama is the synthetic mimic of adventure.
Mm,
And adventure is really an essential aspect of our being. As a being, we are really wired for adventure and we have a passion for it.
right.
Now, when we find ourselves in a reality where um, there are really heavy, heavy restrictions being placed on adventure, we are going to long for something to fill that void of frustration.
Absolutely.
And whenever we are experiencing a void within ourselves, more often than not, we feel it with an addiction. And in this
Yes.
case, okay, we cannot have adventures the way we want to. Okay, well, we'll replace it with drama and we'll get addicted to it.
Mm, it's
Yeah, that
very
makes sense.
valuable point.
Yeah.
Very,
And
very good point.
it is
Yeah.
the toxic mimic of
Yeah.
adventure
Right.
in the context of the synthetic light paradigm.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, that's really good points you guys have raised, and Zach, I like what you're talking about with the integration of the shadow with, with the positive aspect of you or the higher soul self, you could say. And I like that feeling I get from what you said about that integration because to me, it's like becoming the total human that you really are, which is very, very powerful in navigating, this time. And I believe when you're in that aspect of total integration with yourself and in that piece, that's where you do create the reality that you want, regardless of what outside expressions are being shown or shared by other people. I find that there's a way to slice through that chaotic style reality in that heart center of peace and really go through it like jello, Um, but like Mark's talking about, when you get caught in that drama, that's like the open door to that that little slip. If you slip into that little vortex, then that attraction, that magnetic attraction of likeness comes in to pull you into it. So, if you can stay in that total inspiration of yourself and be so aware of your environment and of yourself, navigating through that which more people are creating the chaotic design. And you can just go through that with your total awareness being the totally powerful, integrated being that you are. I believe you can still do anything in this reality that your heart wants to. You know, um, like me coming to Bali, I came in December where um, you have to get that virus test, and if I would have let a lot of aspects of that affect me, I could have created a lot more hardship around me. Number one, my address that I use in Canada is where I used to live with my common law wife. We're still friends, but because I move around so much in the summertime, living in different areas, it would be a disadvantage to keep changing addresses and all that stuff. So she's really good to let me use that address. So when I get this PCR test, or what do they call it, if because those tests are so terribly inaccurate, if I was listed positive, guess what? They would be affected, her and her roommate. Like it could have caused uh, so much drama on the timeline in people in relationship to me. So I knew I had this challenge coming up, and I said, you know what? I've got to navigate this from my heart, my multidimensionality, with respect for everything, this reality, with everybody involved in it. And even though I don't want to wear the mask, I'm going to integrate, or I'm going to deal with that shadow aspect of me that's in relationship to that, of me in another life being masked or being silenced or being burned at the stake because I wanted to express my truth or what is real. So I dealt with that aspect of me so that I didn't have that tremendous, you could say almost hatred for being muzzled, because that's what it's about. Is I came to peace with that, and still in a little bit of aspects I would kind of remove it here and there and whatever, but I was able to get to Bali, going through it all, um, staying in that loving center of myself. So even though I didn't approve of the system, what it did, I just did it in a very neutral way. And I had really good experiences. Met some really wonderful people on the flight. Talked about living in Alaska with one fellow who lives there, and another guy that comes to Jakarta to go, do gold mining for 4 months, and then goes back to Canada. Had a beer together. So, yeah, there's, I think, we get presented with so much drama through the media in so many different ways, alternative media, mainstream media, and so on, that, like Mark says, that sense of adventure it's being stopped because we're stopping it ourselves. They create the problem. We say, yeah, there is a problem. So we actually are the ones that create the problem that they present. And so I'm just finding that, again, we just stay in that real beautiful heart-centered area of total integration, like you said, I think everything is still possible in this world.
Good words, for sure. Thank you. And yeah, just to circle back again to what Mark said, like it totally leaves us with a feeling of a void when we feel like our sense of adventure is taken away from. And a lot of people do start then leaning on things that bring drama, such as addictions or just crazy life events with our relationships. But I think it's an opportunity right now, with a lot of the world being shut down like it is, to get creative in finding our own adventure, whether that's just through being in nature and doing things out in nature, or doing a special hobby at home that is healthier than obviously an addiction. Or the other way to fill that void, honestly, is like the void of not having that adventure, is to connect more to your soul and to your spirit, and to bring that greater part of you into fill that void, because then it doesn't make us want to fill it with unhealthy things.
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of leaning on our spirit more and getting creative with how we can be adventurous, that is going to fill that empty space that a lot of people are feeling during this time.
Yeah. And adventure is not necessarily about the grand heroic gestures. You don't need to walk on a rope, strung between two mountains to be on an adventure. I'm just looking at that beautiful painting behind you, Zach, and
yeah,
doing a painting can be quite an adventure, especially if you're not big on technique. You just start and see what emerges, and that is an adventure in and of itself.
Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
I remember as a kid, Mark, we used to get paid by number, pictures. So to be a picture of a beautiful mountain landscape. And
I'm sorry, Michael, but I'm not hearing what you say. If you could talk closer to your mic.
Okay. First, I got to find the mic. Not sure where it is. I'll tell you what. Can you hear me now, Mark?
Much better.
Okay, good. Okay, what was I saying? My short-term memory is bad again. No, I'm just kidding.
Paint by number.
Yeah. So when we were growing up, you could buy these sets called paint by numbers. So there'd be a beautiful landscape of some, mountains and rivers and so on, or of, a bird or something. And one number would be affiliated with a certain color. So you would paint like number 1 with, say, a lime green, and then number 2 would be a red, And you would do that, and then you'd come up with this, this oil painting, and you come up with a beautiful picture of the landscape that was on the box. So stuff like that from my childhood, I think would be, I don't know if they make it anymore, but I think that's the kind of stuff that, like you're both talking about, as far as being creative, or Mark is saying with that, like I just remember such good stuff when I was younger that came out to support more of what would actually help in this time for youngsters or for anybody.
Mm.
And they do have a lot of that stuff on their devices now, but I feel like
Right.
it takes a little bit away from the physical hands-on experience of, like, for example, when you read a book on your phone, it's a lot different from the experience of holding a book and reading that book.
Yeah,
Like,
Totally.
it's more of an interactive experience when you can hold the book and you're engaged in it and your eyes don't hurt after reading it. Whereas, like, I've seen paint by number on an iPad, and you just tap and the whole thing is filled in. You don't actually have to color it physically in.
Well,
So
Zach, sorry, just one before I forget, is I was talking with a lady yesterday, and she's talking about a 3-year-old boy who has like an iPad and is doing this kind of thing. And when they went to visit some family members, the little boy runs up to the TV screen and is trying to swipe the picture on the screen. And
right.
I mean, growing up in technology versus growing up on the beach and making sandcastles and you know, and you know, like riding pedal bikes. And, you know what I mean? Like you can really see the change of direction, the total pulling away of the person into a technological world that has nothing to do with really what their humanness is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is getting extreme, indeed.
And that's where, like, just speaking in terms of children and growing up in this generation, that's where the parents, and I have noticed parents doing this, where they step in and they make their kids go outside and still have that sense of adventure in the outdoors and in organic mother nature, where the air is fresh and they're not just staring at a screen the whole time. But in order to do that, you really have to, like, help influence them, and the way to do that the best is to lead by example. And a lot of parents um, are just glued to their phone or glued to the TV without showing their children that, like, it's also valuable to enjoy the outdoors and to completely have that life living outside in nature in this day and age. I think is very, very rare. So it has to be a balance of how much technology and how much of the organic world are we interacting with, and being conscious of that ratio.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
So what, we've already touched on some solutions and some really good information as to, deal with our shadows and things like that. Or, maybe there's some more things we could bring out, like Mark, how do you identify shadow aspects of yourself that, what brings those to light for you, and how do you deal with them?
Um, the best way I know to deal with them is to accept them, to acknowledge them, to accept them, and to embrace them, because that's the way back home for these aspects. And that doesn't mean that we are going to express them in an unrestricted and extravagant way. If we have an inner assassin that that wants to kill people, reintegrating it doesn't mean that we're going to go around crushing people's skulls. it it means that we are going to acknowledge that we have that within us, and we're going to embrace it and make it part of ourselves, which is takes place in a process of transcendence. So instead of going to murder people, going around murdering people, we're going to have in some of our activities and expressions what some might call the killer instinct, which means that great intensity and great focus and determination of purpose,
Mm.
which isn't about you know, imposing our will or our whims on others, but really I don't really have another way of putting it, having great intensity and focus of purpose, and going for it when we need to.
So when you identify that aspect of you that is that, how do you integrate that into yourself? What process, just for the people that are watching later, if may feel lost as to how do others integrate those aspects into themselves. I know for me, it's love and gratitude, or going back in time and hugging that part of myself, loving that part
Yeah.
of myself, and also saying, look, we've both done our job. That time is over now, and I bring you back into myself with love, honor, and gratitude,
Yeah.
and yeah, okay,
It really takes the energy of the heart,
right.
and that doesn't mean being lovey-dovey. No, it is the deep energy of your essence that expresses as, among other things, love and gratitude. Yeah, and an absence of shame and guilt about whatever it is we might have experienced in the past. And if there is a guilt, if there is shame and guilt present that emerges, we just embrace it as well, and we just accept that as well, and we
Right on.
make it part of the whole chemical
Yeah,
cocktail.
yeah, exactly, right. There's so many little branches off of a lot of things that we need to incorporate in that. I know one of the issues I had here in Bali is I did get a really bad flu once, and it took a part of my voice away. And I've been a musician for many, many years and do a lot of singing. So I lost a lot of my ability to, not alone just sing, but also talk. So I've been retraining it through an incredible fellow on a website called The Singing Zone, a guy named Per Bristow. And I love the way his techniques and the way he has incorporates the freedom of the spirit through singing. And I've had a lot of vocal teachers in my time, and many of them are very mechanical, and some are almost too free spirited, where they don't bring enough of the mechanics in. So this fellow here does a really good balance of the two. Anyways, to make a long story short, because I had voice issues, whenever I started playing or singing again, there was this part of me saying, am I confident to now sing with what I've trained so far? So, I've been actually playing in front of a few people, and this part of me is just saying, basically, fuck it, just be yourself, just play, just sing. And out of that, two people that I played in front of just had nothing but praise for me and my voice and the beauty of my voice. And I tell you, vocal, the amount of equivalence in vocal practice that did for me to make me better as a singer is immense, like, so that was a huge fear for me, but it's kind of, and I mean, it still is there. It's still not totally healed, but because it's funny, hey, another voice will come in. If I haven't practiced enough in the last few days, am I good enough to sing now again? So there's all these little nuances that come and play that part of the saboteur, which is ourselves doing that. So I think it always takes continuous work until you build up that new version of yourself that is confident in an all-knowingness that you can do something that maybe you feel has been taken away from yourself, which in actuality is yourself taking that away from yourself. So I guess my point is just, you know, really identify those fears, and some of them may be quite big, but you know, they're only big because you think they're big, and there's always a way to chop them down and win. And that's really for me, you know, I've often wondered, why do I want to continue to sing again? But this is like this is like adventure, a sense of adventure and overcoming a huge challenge that is really helping me, which will help others as well.
Yeah, very good point, my brother. It is just a matter of overcoming those fears, and like a lot of the time we look at them for being a lot bigger than they really are. And I think it's super valuable to just look at it for what it is and identify that, yeah, this is a fear, but it's nothing that I can't overcome. I'm bigger than this. I'm better than this. And moving forward in that confidence anyways, and moving forward with courage. Like courage is just moving forward in the face of fear. And when we choose to be courageous on a consistent basis, that becomes part of our identity. And now we're ready to face any new challenge, because life should be looked at as opportunities, not as challenges. And every moment we have an opportunity to be more of ourselves through confidence, or more loving, or more just in line with our spirit, chasing our passions and following the next best feeling thing and serving others. And the more we do that, the more fulfilled we become. The more we give to others, the more we feel fulfilled within ourselves. The more we love others, the more we feel love within ourselves. And the more we follow our passions and express ourselves, the more we give others that example of how they can do that themselves. So it's very good to push through the fear anyways, and not in a forceful way, but um, in a transcendent way, in an overcoming way.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, because I try to stay away from the word force just because of the energy around the word, because I do feel like life should be more in a flow state.
Yeah.
But
Why?
at the same time, sometimes it will feel like a little bit of force is required to get us started. And then once we get through that initial resistance that we've made ourselves, then we can flow the rest of the way.
Well, you know, that's a really good thing you said about force, because yeah, you know, like, I mean, for my issue with the singing thing, there was a lot of frustration with aspects of the voice not representing what I really know I can do inside. So, you know, sometimes there was an approach of force, because it was more like, you know, screw this, I'm going to force myself through it. But you can't do that. It's got to be, like you said, it's got to be a state of flow, and it's, and also everything happens at the right time for the right reasons. So there's patience involved with that. And you know, for me, it was like, you know, 3 steps forward, 2.5 back, you know, and sometimes even 3 steps forward and 3 back again. But
Right.
I think, you know, it's really identifying those passions that you have in life, and you know, maybe you know, the things you've loved doing over life, and maybe some things have gotten forgotten, or there was a physical handicap that came and kind of robbed a person of that. But I always believe there's a way to get over that and still, you know, do the joy that you did love before, that was very joyous, or a new version of that. So I just really want to encourage people that, you know, again, it's us that really creates our reality, and it's us that creates our stops in lives from the fears or that shadow aspect of ourselves. So and you're absolutely right. It's not using force to overcome that. It's using understanding. It's using patience. It's using love, and it's really loving yourself too, and just saying, you know, look, I'm very beautiful, and I deserve everything in this universe it has to offer, and so I deserve to have my voice heard, and I'm just gonna play number one for me. And if I play for me, and just be totally present with me, then what's going to happen is outside is that reflection of my beauty coming out, because I'm not holding my beauty, I'm letting my beauty out. And then what I hear is from other people how beautiful I am because I let my beauty out. When we're taught to keep our beauty in, because you must follow protocol, you must do as the system says you should do. Right.
Yeah.
Mark, are you there, my friend?
Yeah, I think we lost Mark, it looks like.
Well, I know we only got 6 minutes left.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on what you just said about letting the beauty out, because it's very valuable to do that and to not follow protocol and to not fit in the box that society wants us to fit in. We're all meant to be here to express ourselves in our own unique ways, to expand the collective and to evolve our souls. And the way to do that is to let that beauty out and follow those passions. And like you said, if it's not something that you can pursue any longer because of an injury, or maybe the resources such as finances aren't in a place where you can fully follow the passions that you once did or the passions that you dream about following, you can make adjustments and say, okay, well, how can I adjust and how can I best follow this passion in a different way right now? And to just always be adjusting and fine tuning a little bit and being flexible with doing different options that are attainable right now. And when we do that, and when we learn how to just follow the good feeling and do what makes us the most happy in each moment, then that opens the door for more and more passions to be realized and followed through with.
Hey, you guys, we've got 4.5 minutes left, and then it's gonna shut off. So, any summarizes you'd like to share?
Yeah, just wanted to say that there was so much energy in your sharing, Michael, that it busted my computer. So it shut my computer.
I blew you away.
But yeah, a reason for that is that that sharing also had strong resonance for me, because I know that I've been a musician and a composer and a conductor in many incarnations, and the forces of limitation have done their very, very, very best to completely shut down my musical abilities. And I know that it's time for me to restore them, and that this is going to have that reawakening is going to make me very influential, which is of course what they wanted to avoid at all costs. And I'm about to start a training, an online training with a guy who is a very renowned pianist. But one of the things he does is that he facilitates the ability for people to do music spontaneously on a piano without having to learn all the technique in order to do so. And it works in an absolutely amazing way. You know, people instantly start to express beautiful music, even if they cannot read music, even if they haven't been trained to play piano. So I actually discovered that I received emails about that guy immediately after having received the information about what I just explained about my own past experience with music. And the really funny thing is that this guy is called Mark.
Synchronistic. That sounds
But
like a great experience, though, to be able to jump into the actual music making rather than have to go through a big process to even just play a tiny song.
yeah, yeah. And the reason for the reason why it works so well is that, of course, people do not play pre-existing music. They just express what comes from within.
Mm.
Right on, Mark. Hey, we're down to less than a minute, so I think we're gonna have to wrap her up here. So thank you. It's amazing how the time flew here. I think we got some really, really cool information here. So thank you both for being here, and I'll send the link out to the share once it's uploaded to a BitChute, and then we'll do it again.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds great. Thank you both.
All right, thanks for joining, you guys, and all the best out there in your endeavors and moving forward.
You too, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year. Much love.
Happy New Year.